Well, welcome to Lesson 2. I'm excited that you're back, and I hope that you've spent some time in Lesson 1 working out how to tune the guitar, and that you've worked on the notes of the fretboard, and you've worked on the scales. If you get those major and minor scales down, they will be very helpful to you. In this lesson, we are going to start putting together and learning chords. Guitar playing is a combination of just two things. First of all, you've got to know the right chords. You've got to be able to play them cleanly so every note sounds crisp and clean. And you've got to be able to change from chord to chord quickly, smoothly, so that it's seamless and that the music can flow. And that's the one thing we have to do. We have to learn our chords and be able to change. And of course, the second part of playing the guitar is the right hand, how to strum or pick to make the song sound like it's supposed to sound. Lesson 3 will be about strumming and picking. This lesson is about chords, because we're going to put together our chords. We're now going to start learning our major chords. But before I talk about major chords, let me talk about the two types of chords we have. Chords down in this range right here, down here, are what we call open chords. That's because there are certain strings that will not be touched and not be played, so that the entire string from the bridge to the nut will be sounded. That makes it an open chord. The other kind of chords that we deal with on a regular basis are bar chords. Bar chords are when we place our first finger over all the frets. And what we're really virtually doing is just changing the nut position by moving our finger up and down the fretboard to create a new starting point for the string. And when we cross over, lay our finger across all the frets, now we play with the other three fingers, we play a series of chords in order to play the right chord that's required for the song. And we can do that. And bar chords is a way, if you listen to a lot of rock and roll things, for example, bar chords are extremely common. So we'll need to learn both our open chords and our bar chords. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to zoom in the camera so that you can see my hand as I form the chords. And I want you to take out a piece of paper, write it down, take some notes, because this particular lesson will take you months to accomplish. It really will. So don't get frustrated. Don't think you're going to learn how to play all the chords in a matter of a few days or a few weeks. It just doesn't happen that way. What I've done is I've created in the course, as you know, I've included approximately 50 songs in the course with you, and I've chosen those songs very carefully for two ingredients, two elements of those songs that I think are good to put in the course. First of all, they are songs hopefully that you will enjoy playing. These are very popular songs from the last 30-40 years. You probably know most of them already, and so I'm a great believer in, while you're learning the guitar, you may as well be practicing songs that you enjoy playing. The second part of those songs is that the majority of those songs are relatively easy songs to play in terms of the chord patterns. Not too complicated chords and not too many chord changes, and not too much of complicated rhythms that require the right hand. So that combination is why I've chosen those songs. So as you are practicing the chords that I'm going to teach you now, pull out some of those songs and just change from one chord to the other. Keep forming the correct chord, making sure that every note sounds proper, and then you can practice changing from chord to chord so that it gets smooth and seamless. That's the key. Okay, here we are with a close-up of the fretboard, bottom five frets, and we are now going to go through and start with the major chords, the major open chords. And if you'll remember the numbering system, that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to start with the C chord. Let's start with the C chord. C chord is made by playing 21 with the first finger, 42 with the second finger, and 53 with the third finger. 53. You already know that 53, 5th string, 3rd fret, is a C note, and that is the C chord. And when we play a C chord, we usually do not include the bottom string. What we want to play usually when we play a chord is we want to use the root or the lowest note in the chord. Usually is the note of the root of the chord. So C chord is like that. That's a C chord. Now notice what I'm doing on this finger especially. It's a little tricky to be able to play it and still be able to keep the strings around the first string. In other words, the 1st and the 3rd string. It's hard to make it sound clean and crisp. You will be probably, when you start forming the C chord, you will, until you get better at it, you will be touching one of those. And if you touch it, you'll get a sound like that, which is not good for the guitar, right? So practice the C chord. Start the strum on the 5th string. All right, let's go to the D chord. D chord is open, is played. 1st finger is on 32, 2nd finger is on 12, and the 3rd finger is on 23. Now, the bass note for the D chord is the 4th string, which is a D note. So that's the D chord. And there are songs written, for example, an old song called In the Land of Odin. In the Land of Odin has 2 chords in it. And guess what they are? D and C. That's the whole song. So just if you practice those 2 songs, you can play In the Land of Odin. Now, that may not be exciting to you, but it is a real song. All right. That's the D and the C and the D chord. The E chord is made 1st finger on 31, 2nd finger on 52, and 3rd finger on 42. Now, the low E note, the low is the 6th string, open is an E note, and so this chord plays all the strings. Okay, so those are the first 3. After the D, after the E, we will go to F. F is played 1st finger. F is probably the most difficult chord of the normal natural chords because on the 1st finger on an F chord you have to cross over both 11 and 21. 2nd finger goes on 32. 3rd finger goes on 43. 43 is an F note. Therefore, that will be the bass of the chord, and we will normally play the bottom 4 strings. I make it sound easy. It's not easy. You will have a hard time making this, especially this part of it, sound clean until you practice. If you'll notice, see how my thumb is? My thumb is pressed up against the back of the neck. If you put your thumb around like this, you will not be able to play very cleanly. So I bring it around, and then I bring the fingers down on the fretboard as straight as comfortable. The straighter you can bring them down, the cleaner the chords will sound. And always put your fingers, by the way, see how much of this fret I can move my finger back and forth? It's always a good idea to bring your finger to the front portion of the fret, closest to the body of the guitar, down where the right hand is. If you play it back here, hear that buzzing? As you move up to up there, it's nice and clean. So always try to play. If you'll notice, my fingers are placed towards the front of each fret. All right, that's the F chord. So we got C, D, E, F. And you see, I can switch back and forth. I can. All right, so practice switching them back and forth. So after the F, now we have the G. The G is made by putting the 1st finger on 52, the 2nd finger on 63, and the 3rd finger down here all the way on 13, 1st string, 3rd fret. This one again, you have to move your hand. You see my hand's moving. See my thumb? My thumb normally floats behind the neck. It's not pressed tight up against the neck. Usually it's floating. I'm not even touching. Many times my thumb doesn't even touch the back of the neck, so that my hand can move to accommodate various chord structures. All right, that's a G. Now, if you really want to start off, I don't recommend it, but if you want to start off cheating, you can play a G with just this and play the bottom 4 strings. You can do that. I call that the cheating G, because you're leaving out the bass note down here. 63 is a G note, and so if you play the G the correct way, you play all the strings. And all the strings provide a stronger, fuller sound than just playing a partials. But you will notice that the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string are identical if you play the cheating G or if you play the real G. A is played 1st finger on 42, 2nd finger on 32, 3rd finger on 22. Now that looks like a lot of fingers stuck together, but that's the way you play an A. And the open 5th string, as you know, is an A note. Therefore, that is the bass note of the chord. And so traditionally, normally, we would strum the bottom 5, the top 5 strings. Okay. Any questions? So far, those are the open natural chords that we deal with in the guitar. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, and there's one more that we have, which is a B. A B is complicated, and so I recommend that we move over to the bar chords in order to learn the B chord. Barring chords, as I've said before, is you take your 1st finger and you lay it across all the frets. And when you do that, you're just changing the distance of the string from the bridge to the nut. This is the nut, remember. And so as you move up the fretboard, the sounds get different. And so the bar chord will create a chord based on the same configuration of the open chords. For example, by far the two most common bar chords we use are in the E configuration, the E chord configuration, and the A configuration. 99% of bar chords will be either an A or an E configuration. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that if I play an E chord right here, and then I move it up 1 fret, and I bar all of these, even though I'm playing the E chord, since I've moved it up 1 fret, what is 1 fret above an E? It's an F. This is an F chord. I'm playing the E configuration in the F position. F. If I want to go up one fret from an F, you know what it is, an F sharp. Guess what chord that is? That's an F sharp. One more is a G. And notice what I'm doing. I'm not changing the configuration of my fingers one bit. E, F, F sharp, G. And it stays exactly the same. So that's bar chords are very convenient, and a lot of musicians will use them, and you need to know them. Now that G chord is not different, but it sounds different, has a different sound to it from the open. Open chords, as I mentioned when we talked about alternative tunings, open chords have a slightly different sound, and musicians sometimes want that open sound. You hear it a lot in folk music and others. That open sound is important to them. The bar chord does provide additional opportunities, which we'll talk about in lesson number 4, to doing some other things that enhance the music. So I'll give you an example. On many songs, I will play G chords this way and this way, depending on which verse and which chorus I'm in. I might play the bar G in choruses and the open G in verses for that different sound, to add some variety to the music. So that's the E bar. And at this point we're just going to go up. That's a G sharp, playing an E chord at the 4th fret. Barred is a G sharp, and of course if I played an E chord barred at the 5th fret, it would be an A. That's right. Now that chord right there, that A, is the same chord as playing the A open that we talked about before. All right, those are bar chords. Now, why am I showing you the bar chords right now? It's because we have to get to that B chord. If that's an A chord, where is B in relationship to A? B is up 1 step. 2 frets is 1 step. So we can come up to, if we instead of playing A on the 2nd fret, if we went up to the 4th fret, those are 3 of the notes in the B chord. However, you can't play like that. That sounds terrible. So once again, we are going to bar the 2nd fret and then use our other 3 fingers to play an A chord up a step from where the A is back here. That is a B chord. B. And the B note is the 5th string. 2nd fret, 5th string is a B. That is the B chord. And it really, truly is the only good sounding B chord. The open B chord is like this, just 1, 2, 3. Notice that it's a cheating B, if you will, and you sort of do that and you just kind of fake it. But if you want the whole B chord to sound good, you're gonna have to practice the bar chord in an A position. If you are thinking about it, there is another place where a B chord is played rather commonly. And let me just show you. If we can go, if the open string on the 6th string is E, F, G, A, we can come up to the 7th fret and play a B. The B, 67, is the same thing as 52. Hear that? Same thing. So if we wanted to, we could play a B chord by barring the 7th fret and playing our E position on these 3 fingers. That's a B chord. A, G, F, E. And notice I played all those chords, not changing these 3 fingers one bit. All I did was move up and down the fretboard, barring it in position. Same thing in the A position. A, B. If I go up 1, what's 1 up from a B? C. And that is an A. Those are the A. Creates the A chord. Up 1 from a C is a C sharp. And by the way, when you're playing in an A position, the bass note is almost always the 5th string. That's the C sharp note. Up 1 more is it is a D. So that D chord, you can play it barred, or you can come down and play the open D. That's the same chord. Here. Now one other quick little thing about bar chords in the A position. I typically don't play my A chords like this, using these 3 fingers. And I'll tell you why. I play the A chord using 1 finger across all 3 of those strings. And that allows me these other fingers to play other things if I want to. Gives me a lot of options. So what I do is, if I'm playing a bar in an A position, I will use my 3rd finger to run across. Now the problem with this, if you'll try it, is this bottom string. You'll probably get a thudding sound until you practice pulling the string. You got to make the 2nd string sound good and the 1st string. So it's a little tricky, But if you do it that, if you practice the A bar, B. See now, this middle finger's in my way. I'm just trying to. If I put it like this is the bar, this is the A chord. Okay, B, C, D, C, B, A, or A, or A. I mean, you can play it either way, but it's the same notes. Okay. So the bar chords are either in E or A position. It is rare. You could also play bar chords in using the D position instead of this. If you want to play, what's 2 frets above a D? An E. That's correct. So you could, if you wanted to, you could bar 2 frets, and then you could play an E chord, say like that, up 2 frets, and you could, but it's very uncommon. It's not necessary. You can play hundreds of thousands of songs and never need to do that particularly. So if you practice and learn the open chords that I've shown you and the bar chords in the E and the A position, and those are all major chords. Now we are going to practice our minor chords. The minor chords are made, and this is the pattern and the relationship of chords. Minor chords are always made by flatting the third. Now, what does that mean? If you'll remember your intervals and your scales, a third is up 4 frets from the root, meaning the C note in this scale of C, we go from C, 53, to D, open, 40. That's a second. The third is E, up another 2 frets. So it's up 4 frets from C, D, E. E is the third in the key or the scale of C. Now to go from a C to a C minor, what you do is you have to flat the third, meaning go down 1 fret. So the scale would go, the minor scale would go C, D, D sharp. Instead of E, it would be D sharp or E flat. Okay, and then it would go up to F. So it'd go. That's the minor scale. The major scale is, and we've talked about that in lesson 1. So in every chord that I've shown you, to make it a minor chord, you would flat the third. Let's take, for example, the chord of D. Remember D? 32, 12, 23. What is the third of D? Well, D, E, F sharp. F sharp, this note right here, 12, is the third. We flat the third. Now we are going to play, instead of 12, we're going to play 11. That will make it a minor chord. So we can't really move this finger down behind it, so we have to reconfigure our fingers. We start playing a D minor, first finger on 11, second finger on 32, third finger on 23. That is the D minor chord. Now listen. See? It's got that ballad, sad sound. Major, minor. See, I'm moving those 2 fingers. That's the minor. Now what's interesting is that every single minor chord you play is the same relationship as that. You know, it took me 15 years of playing the guitar before I realized that. But you can always calculate and figure out the minor chord by adding a flatted third. You have to take the third away and flat it. All right, so that's a D, D minor. A, what's the third of A? A goes to B, B goes to C sharp. So in order to play an A minor, we have to change the C sharp, which is 22, to a 21. That's the flatted third. So we go 21, 42, 32. So we go A, and in this case we have to also reconfigure our fingers. Now we are going to go from this A to playing it like that. The bass note doesn't change. D, D minor, A minor, D minor, E. Hear it? Hear the difference between a major and a minor? A minor, D minor. Yeah. Hear it? Has a whole different sound. Easy to pick out. D minor. Now G. C. F barred. Yeah, how about that? Now E. Okay. So that's the A minor. E minor. Play the regular E. How do you flat the third? What's the third of E minor? So E goes from E up to F sharp, up to D sharp. So the key of E, the third is a D sharp or an E flat. And so how do we? Well, I'm sorry. The third of E is a G sharp. It goes from E to F sharp to G sharp. Now to make a third, we flat so we play a G. So the E, it's so easy to go from an E to an E minor because all we do is that's E. All we do is we drop this E minor. Hear the difference? Okay, those are those. C is a difficult one. C minor, the only good way to play a C minor. What is the third of a C? That's right, it's E. So you can try if you want to drop that down to here, but then it gets very complicated to play that chord. So the best way to play a C minor is we bar in an A position up on the 3rd fret to a C, and then instead of playing this as an A, we play an A minor on the 3rd fret barred. And that goes from a C to a C minor. D, C minor, G is... Okay, so we go from a C to a C minor. That's the best way. A G is also... What's the third of a G? Well, G, A, B. So we want to flat the B. We want to play a B flat. Now, where's a B flat? Well, the best sounding G minor is you play a barred E position up on the 3rd fret, which is a G, and you just play it. You change these two fingers into an E minor on the 3rd fret, which makes it a G minor. That's the G minor. That's the best G minor that I know. You can throw in a B flat, and one is right here. That's a B flat 33, but it just doesn't have the right ring to it. See? Because that's weird. Because what you really can't play in a G minor is the B. The B makes it a major. So if you strum like this, you're playing a minor and a major at the same time, and it's discordant, is what they call that. It just doesn't sound good. If you play it in this position, the B is gone. You're not playing a B anywhere, and that's important. This is a true minor chord. All right, what are the minor chords we have to go through? We have C, C minor, G, G minor, D, D minor, E, E minor, A minor. We have to go to F. Now F is another one. Remember F is that hard one where we go like this? What is the third of an F? Well, F, G, A. So in this chord, this finger right here is playing the third in a major. We have to flat it, so we have to go from a 32 down to a 31. Well, 31, we can't do that. That's in the way. So what we do is instead, we use our first finger across the top 3 fingers. And then we bring the 3rd finger over here to play the bass note. That is the minor. This one is not playing at all, by the way. It's just in the way. Okay. Now, if you're going to play the F minor, you might as well play the barred F and then play the E minor position on the F like that. Boy, doesn't that sound better? Strumming all the strings than just strumming the top 4 strings and play like that. Now sometimes you might want that. Anyway, okay, so you get that. Those are the minor chords. Now we're going to go through the 7th chords quickly. In a 7th chord, we have to add the 7th in the scale. Adding the 7th, if you count up the scale, it is, well, it's the 7th. For example, in the key of D, if you count up the scale, D, the key of E, it means that the 7th of D scale is a C note. We have to add a C note. Where is the C note that we're going to add? Well, we are going to add to the D chord, we're going to add 21. That's a C. This is the D that we're playing. Down 2 frets makes it is the 7th note. So instead of playing a D like this, we are going to play it like this, here, and here. And that gives us, now listen, you hear the difference? A 7th chord is usually a transitional chord. We play D, and then we go to a 7th to take us someplace else. Usually like a G. So we go D, D7th, G. So that's the D7th. We are going to add the 7th. So that's the C in D. In G, for example, and you should be writing these down. There's the G chord, remember. What's the 7th of a G? Count it up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 we know is going to be an F. We have to add an F to the chord in order to create the 7th sound. And so the best way and the most common way when we're playing an open chord to do that is to drop the G that we're playing down here down to here, which means we have to reconfigure our fingers. We play the first finger, second finger goes up to plays the 52. This is a very important note in the G chord. And our third finger goes to 63. That's the G 7th chord. I know I make it look easy and it sounds good. It's not easy to play. You will be getting buzzing and you'll be getting thudding until you practice it. So it's G, G7, and transitions to a different, there's a C. Okay. And as I play those things, those probably sound familiar to you because those are parts of real songs. We are really playing the guitar now. All right. So now we've done the D and the G. Let's do A. A 7th. We have to add the 7th. What is the 7th of an A? It's a G. There are 2 ways to play the A 7th. We can play the open string 3rd string. That's a 7th. So we would just remove our middle finger. Hear that? The other way to do it, that's one G that we could add, or you can add a different G, where a different G is 13. So we could play A and add with our pinky, or if we're practicing running across, we can just add, it doesn't matter what finger you use, but if you hear that, that's an A 7th. So you go A 7th, transition to D. All right. That's the A. Write it down so that you can practice it. Now we have the E. The E 7th. What's the E? What's the 7th of an E? That's right, it's D. So where's the D notes? Well, there's a couple of different D notes that we can use. The D note is the 4th string open, so we can remove our 3rd finger and just play 31 and 52. That's an E 7th. That is an E 7th. Or we can add a D, which is 23. Or we can add this. Sometimes the upper 7th sounds better because it's a fuller chord. Anyway. So you can play the E 7th either way. Or, all right, that's the E 7th. What other chords do we have to go through? Now, also, those are the open chords, but when you're playing a bar chord, you can also play it the same exact way. If you're in the E configuration, if you play an E7th, depending on where up the fret you are, you will be playing different chords. If you are playing in the A position, if you change it to a 7th, the A chord, depending on what fret you're on, you will be playing a different chord. So if I said you a B7th, well, as I said before, the B is going to be an A played up 2 frets. Then if you want to play a B7th, you would remove the middle finger, and that's the B7th. Same way as we played went from an A to an A7th. You go up, B, B7th. All right. So that you can play a C, C7th, a D, D7th. You can do that on any bar position. So let me ask you this question. If I said play an F sharp 7th, well, a half an hour ago you would have had no clue how to play an F sharp 7th. Now you know that to play an F sharp, you would normally start in the E position, go up 2 frets, which is 2 frets above the E is the F sharp. Now you're playing an F sharp. And now you just have to change this E configuration to a 7th, which is by all you do is remove the baby finger, in this case, and you've now played an F sharp 7th. Sounds like a complicated chord, but with using the bar technique, it really isn't too terribly difficult. Now, before I finish with lesson 2, let me just share with you a couple of other things real briefly. We also need to talk about minor 7ths. You will see minor 7ths a lot. And in a minor 7th, all you're doing is minoring the chord and adding the 7th. It's just the combination of both. So, for example, let's take A.